Hey everybody, welcome back to Comic Crow. And yeah, I guess there's another Me Too story we got to talk about. This one, I don't even know how to really respond to it because I could only give you an emotional response more than anything else because that's all that this story is, right? There's a lot in here. Actually, I mean, not a ton because some of these things go on for like 50 pages, right? But, there's enough in here that would lead you to believe that the person that they're accusing is just an awful, disgusting degenerate and a monster of a person. But at the exact same time, they don't actually have any evidence. The screenshots that they do have are from about 5 to 6 years ago. And these screenshots just show that they knew this Kwite individual. It doesn't show them having hostile conversations. It doesn't show them, even saying, hey, that thing you did makes me feel bad or anything of that nature. I mean, I'm sure that they knew him. I'm sure that they knew Kwite, but I want to preface this because I don't want to read you something that says, hey, he did this terrible, super evil, awful thing to me. I need you to understand that there is no proof for any of it that's been presented by this accuser. There is none. Although I never felt that I could come out about this, and I have struggled with this for years before writing this, and I doubt it'll do anything close of years after I write this that this will ever be released. But in the case that you are reading this, I have to come out and lay what has happened to me. I was raped by a man known as the YouTuber Kwite in February 2018 and had been in an extremely toxic friendship on and off relationship with him since 2017. To start in the beginning, I had found Kwite's channel when it had less than 500 subscribers, and as a teenager wanted to make art for him. Because he didn't use his face in his videos, I thought he would have an easier time if I drew him and recommended he wore sunglasses and a face mask instead of manually keying his face out with a black box. There, I essentially came up with his Sona with him and drew various talk sprites for him for free that he only ever used maybe once. We were around the same age and slowly began talking and bonding over shared mental health issues. At this time, I was undiagnosed with autism and BPD, which I have diagnosis for now, and thus was unaware of how these would affect me in the coming relationship we had and how he would, most likely without knowing, take advantage of me. So there's immediate problems with what they are saying here. Okay, for one, as far as like the mental health issues go, I don't think that he can take advantage of her or him or whatever the pronouns are here. Maybe I don't see how Kwite can take advantage of a person and not know that maybe that's what's going on. It just doesn't seem like that would be his fault if he clearly has no idea that's what's going on. But that sounds like, a mental health thing that the accuser needs to work on. But as far as their description, that's an extremely toxic friendship. My only issue with that is if it was, I mean, I would expect like at least one of these messages to show him being toxic, right? Like I would expect you to show me something like that, just something that would like verify the story a little bit, but we don't even have that. At first, we're extremely close in ways that helped the both of us. He shared bits of his past and I shared mine. However, slowly my status as an artist would land me in more YouTube circles than his would, and he would slowly try to encourage me to let him join said spaces. As a friend, I of course wanted to include him in as many as I could, but as I did, he made various connections outside of me. The relationship grew transactional. While I won't say I was the most stable person at the time, I was not actively unkind. I cannot say the same for him. When my abandonment issues would arise, he would leave me ignored, and then when I was having the worst of my time, he would swoop in to save me and keep me under his thumb. He would yell at me or act passive-aggressive towards me when being my friend was inconvenient, but love-bomb me when it was just us or he needed something from me. He would use my memory issues against me to gaslight me about things he said, and it would keep... I'm going to be real with you guys here. I don't even know if any of this is true. And it's not the fact that they don't have any evidence to back it up. It's the part where they say that they have mental health issues, that they're having abandonment issues, and that he's not responding to them. And then he swoops in, when she's having the worst time to save her and keep her under his thumb. I don't really know if that's the case. I mean, let me present an alternative theory here. He's not swooping in to save her and keep her under his thumb. she's having a mental breakdown and he's jumping in to stop her from going over the edge. I mean, I've been not in a relationship, but I've been in friendships that have kind of been like that. Way back in the past in high school, where it's like, you're ignoring somebody and they get worse, and it's like, well, if I keep ignoring you, you're only going like you're going to do something bad. I don't in this person's head, what he is doing is a manipulation tactic, and this is no disrespect to the accuser, but the accuser is dealing with a bunch of different mental health issues. It's very possible that they're not perceiving what's actually happening around them. Eventually, we met in real life a few times. I had transphobic parents, so I told him my dead name to use only when my parents were talking to him. But after knowing this information, he would use it as a way to belittle me. The first meeting was fine, but he had a rule that I wasn't allowed to take any pictures of him, but he was allowed to take pictures of me. After promising and begging to take a few pictures that wouldn't and still haven't been posted for memories, he let me take a few before he left. The second meeting, however, was different. We had planned to meet up while he was on vacation in my city, and thus I would pick him up in my car, and we would go to both a trampoline. Okay, hold on. So I'll get into this, because that's where the grape claim comes in. What happened here? Because this is what I mean. She says she says the relationship is toxic up here, right? And then over here, it's like he got my dead name and then he would use it to belittle me. But why don't you have any of those conversations saved, right? Like these are random like screenshots of your Discord combos, and I have no clue. I have honestly no clue when these were saved, because this says February 2nd, 2018. I mean, you clearly went back to the messages to go and save and screenshot them. Why wouldn't you go back at that time and screenshot like the bad stuff? Doesn't make sense. The second meeting, however, was different. We had planned to meet up while he was on vacation in my city, and thus I would pick him up in my car and we would go to both a trampoline park and go see Black Panther. This is where the worst of his behavior occurred. At this time, we were both on and off flirting, and I discussed that if we were both single at this time, we would take each other's virginity. However, once he had come on to me in the backseat of my car, I started to get cold feet. He, however, did not want to take no for an answer. This is where I have a problem, okay? Because the way that they are saying this is something that I've seen more people try to adopt this new theory, where if you get asked and you say no and they ask again, that's violating your ability to consent or something of that nature, right? Like you're pressuring people into consenting. The way that this is being framed, that sounds like the argument that they're trying to make. My problem is I just don't believe it, okay? Because you go, oh, we were flirting, we talked about taking each other's virginity, and we're in the back seat of the car. Then I got cold feet. Then he wouldn't take no for an answer. I'm sorry. I can read that in the way she wants me to read it. I can also read it as they said no at first and then they said yes later, and then it hurt because, again, first time, they're both virgins, so it's bad sex, and they wanted it to stop. Like I get all of this happening. It's just, it doesn't sound like she or whatever, it doesn't sound like they were raped. In the backseat of my own car, he raped me. Okay. All the while I was telling him how it hurt and how I didn't want to do this anymore. He kept, okay, so, and that's the other thing. If you're, and again, you're both virgins, it's bad virgin sex. You're doing it and you're telling me that you were telling him that you didn't want to do it anymore. So that means you did consent. I mean, that means, I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like maybe you did say no at first, but then you did say yes. And then as you were doing it, it started to hurt because, again, it's the first time for both of you. He doesn't know how to, quote unquote, be gentle. And, it's your first time and it hurts. And so you say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. It sounds like you did give him consent. It doesn't sound like he raped you. Based on how you worded this in your own twit longer, based on how you chose to word this in your own twit longer. If you want to tell me that I'm misinterpreting it, you need to explain it to me in a way where it makes sense. Because you even say afterwards, right, that you just I put the event out of my mind as just two virgins being bad at sex and hung out with him for the rest of the day, and he was still one of my closest friends. I have a video of him to prove we were together at that time, and I was able to, so I get that not all victims act the same, but you basically just said that he raped you and that you kind of just put in the back of your head, you hung out with him, and that you remain close friends after the fact. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just too old-fashioned for this, but when I say that I don't think that this individual was raped, I will die on that hill, because the way that they describe it in here, it doesn't sound like that's what happened at all. And it really does seem like they are attempting to either rewrite history a little bit. Maybe they bought into some really stupid ideologies that tell them that this means it's rape, but I just can't, man. This is really dumb. A few months later, once he had gained quite a few more subscribers and larger YouTube friends, did he start ghosting me more and more often, all while I was having a BPD episode. Okay, wait. So after this happened, you're still his close friend. That's not what breaks off your friendship. It's the fact that he starts to grow, he's leaving you alone. You've already said you have abandonment issues. This reads like it's revenge now. It got to the point where he called me to cut me off, and in our fight called me I can't say the word, who thinks she's a boy and will never be. This extremely hurt me and caused me to spiral mode. I also need to be institutionalized, but thankfully for my social support system, I wasn't. Maybe it happened. Right? Maybe it did happen. I want to see like the entire conversation, because it sounds like, the thing is, I can read between the lines enough to see that the accuser was quite obviously being manic with Kwite, right? They're not saying that's what they're doing. They're not saying that they were, being emotionally strong, but you can see it. Okay, you can clearly see that they were being manic. This is their own twit longer, right? This is their own twit longer. And again, the messages they do have don't support their story in any fucking way, shape, or form. I don't know, guys. I'm sure I'm gonna get hate for pointing this out, but this not only doesn't smell right, I think this is just total bullshit. I think it's just completely made up.